Hey y'all, it is Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis on January 6th, 2022, and today I'm in the greenhouse. The sun is kind of just going down. I've got some lights on here above me, so hopefully you can see a little more, but basically it's a weekday. I normally shoot the videos on the weekends when the sun's up, but I have blooms today that I want to show you that might not be in bloom in a couple of days. And specifically, I'm talking about walkerianas and nobiliors being open at the same time. So I figured today would be a fun day to show you a walkeriana that's been blooming basically for like 5 or 6 weeks. And then I want to show you some first bloom seedlings up here, as well as a nobilior and some nobilior spikes. So one of the Floralia imports that I got maybe a year or two ago is just putting out its first spike. So today we'll look at mature plants, first bloom plants, walkerianas, nobiliors, and it should be fun. Hopefully the light in here is enough to show you a good representation of what I'm talking about. Also, there are a couple of great horned owls just outside my greenhouse hooting away. So maybe as I'm talking, if you guys hear what sounds like a great horned owl, it's that time of year when they start talking to each other to make babies, and they're right there. So anyway, let's turn the camera around and look at some plants. Again, my apologies for the poor lighting. As I mentioned, the sun is going down. Now we're going to depend on these little greenhouse lights that I have. Quick sneak preview of some things that are opening, and I'll talk about in a future video, but we're here today to look at walkeriana and nobilior. So what's interesting is, these typically bloom in different seasons, with fall, winter being walkeriana season, and winter, spring typically being nobilior season. And for whatever reason, my T-bone nobilior here, which is not particularly well shaped, but it's kind of what you would expect from probably a wild collected specimen, but it started to put out buds really early this year. For some reason, it has decided that it wants to do this. My buddy who got a division about a year ago also has his blooming right now. Also worth noting is that this particular bulb and its 2 subsequent spikes got so heavy that they snapped off. And so you can see a new root right there if we focus in. So I guess after this video I'll pop this up. I had no idea that happened. There is no wind in here. So it's just purely weight that happened. So as I had mentioned, this is the walkeriana. It's starting to fade. Actually, you can see, these two blooms up here are spent. We still have this one. This one has been on my living room windowsill for like 5 or 6 weeks, and just perfuming my living space, my living room and kitchen area so heavily. It's just such a wonderful scent. I love it. It is the same plant that hasn't bloomed for a bunch of years, as you can see by its gigantic size, and of course by blocking my neighbor's nightlight I was able to get it to bloom. Up here we have a couple of first bloom seedlings, from the same cross. This is from my friend Luis Hamilton Lima. This is from his breeding stock down in Brazil. And as you can see, it is Teresa Helena, which I believe is his mother, by Raphael. And that should be in parentheses. And then it was a selfing of that plant. And these are siblings here. First bloom. So you can see this one's folded up, and it is quite a bit smaller than the other one. But actually, let me get this tag over here. And you can see first bloom seedlings are wonky, and they don't last long. So we have 2 dying flowers next to each other. The first bloom is much smaller than the than the mature plant. And the mature plant, like I said, has lasted 5 or 6 weeks in bloom, whereas this little guy has only been open, and as you can see, only partially open for maybe 2 weeks. So I'm kind of sad that it's already dying. I haven't had a chance to bring it inside, but you know, like I said, this is the first bloom seedling, and this is the size of the plant that you can expect your walkerianas to bloom on for the first time. And if we take a look at its sibling here, you can see a much larger flower. Wonky shape, terrible shape, but it's a first bloom. So if this one flattens out next year, I am really excited. I like the color a lot. It's got a really nice, dark, saturated lavender, and I hope it shows up here in the video. Obviously the shape is terrible, but that lip is really nice. It should flatten out a bit on the next bloom. Again, really nice color saturation. You can see the sort of the white picotee there where the column ends and the lip starts, and a nice spade-shaped lip. Good looking side lobes encircling the column there, and very strong scent. Again, so this plant is larger than that one, and its bloom is probably twice as large. Again, both are wonky shaped, but I bet both next year will open up really nicely and provide a great show. So we'll see what happens. I moved some plants around. This one that I don't want to fall off is a nobilior alba that I got from Floralia. And you can see these blooms are coming out. So this is the size of a nobilior that you can expect a first bloom on. It is a little larger than the walkeriana that is blooming for the first time. In terms of plant size, I'll put them next to each other, and you can kind of see that big old flowers in the way there. But again, so these are you're kind of comparing what your first bloom seedlings might look like compared to these ones. So again, this is an import. Had it not been imported, maybe I could have gotten a bloom on a smaller plant, but I'm excited. This will be my first Floralia nobilior bloom, and hopefully it's a nice one. It's an alba, so that'll be my second alba. Who knows? Maybe I'll make a good cross from it if it's nice. And of course, here is a comparison of the two blooms. I know that a lot of folks think nobilior and walkeriana are similar looking. They look very different to me. You can see especially the patterning of the lip there. And the bloom season, you know, the fact that we typically get 2 leaves on nobilior and a single leaf on walkeriana is another big giveaway. And of course, for those of you who are out there in YouTube land saying, oh, you should make Brazilian Jewel, which is walkeriana by nobilior, I will not do that. These are not nice enough blooms to make such a cross. This is sort of your typical wild type flower, and this is a nice line bred one, but it's not, well, especially this bloom, which is odd. Looks like it had a little problem opening up, but I don't see any particular reason to breed these together. For those of you who have been breeding for a while, you'll know that a cross like this might take 10 years to bloom. So if I'm going to put 10 years into something, I'm damn well sure going to make sure that it's worthwhile. And crossing those two parents are not worthwhile. Nobilior will take over a year for its seed pods to mature. So if I put the pollen onto this guy, I would have to wait maybe a year and a half before the seeds were mature enough to harvest. I can't recall off the top of my head how long it takes a walkeriana seed pod to mature, but then I would put it into a flask, and I would wait a couple more years till I get those flasks back to me, and then of course I would have to grow them for, you know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years before I get bloom. So you can really start to understand why hybridizers and breeders are very reluctant to just bloom breed anything that comes along. So anyway, that is the walkeriana and nobilior collection update. I don't know if you can see, I've got a Cattleya nobilior in the back that is spiking. I have more blooms on this tipo that will come out. I guess I'm going to repot this guy. It's a kind of unexpected occurrence, but these things happen. I guess I'll have a division for sale, or I'll grow it out and then sell it maybe. But anyway, I hope you're having a great week.